If you feel like you're doing everything right, the diet, the exercise, the supplements, but you're still waking up exhausted, it's likely not a lack of discipline. It's a lack of permission. You've reached a stage in life where the standard advice doesn't seem to move the needle anymore. In your 20s or early 30s, if you felt off, you'd double down. You'd train harder, cut more carbs, or push through a weekend of work with nothing but caffeine and willpower. And it worked. Your body responded. You bounced back. But now, something has changed. You're likely between 35 and 55. You have a career that demands your best thinking, children who need your emotional presence, and perhaps aging parents who are beginning to require your logistical and financial support. You are the responsible one. You are the one people call when things break. And yet inside, you feel like you are the one who is breaking. You follow the protocols. You've watched the videos on longevity. You try to get your steps in and hit your protein targets. But instead of feeling energized, these healthy habits feel like more items on a never-ending to-do list. You feel more fragile, more easily irritated, and deeply, fundamentally tired. The question isn't why you've lost your edge. The question is, why doesn't healthy living feel healthy anymore? Consider a typical Tuesday. You wake up at 6 a.m. not because you're rested, but because the alarm or your internal anxiety dictates it. You check your phone, 6 notifications from work, 3 from a family group chat. Before your feet have even hit the floor, your nervous system has already left the building. It's out there, in the future, solving problems. You go for that morning run because you're supposed to, but your legs feel like lead. You eat the salad for lunch, but you're so stressed during the meal that your digestion stalls, leaving you bloated by 2 p.m. By the time 9 p.m. rolls around, you know you should be winding down for sleep. But that's the only time the house is quiet. That's the only time no one is asking you for anything. So you stay up, you scroll, you revenge bedtime procrastinate. You feel guilty because you know this hurts your longevity, but you can't seem to stop. The guilt is the signal. You feel like you're failing at being healthy, but the truth is much more subtle. What is actually happening under the surface is a phenomenon called allostatic load. Think of your body as a high-performance battery. In your younger years, the battery had a massive capacity and a fast-charging port. You could drain it to zero, plug it in for a few hours, and be back at 100%. Now the capacity is still there, but the charging port is corroded by chronic overstimulation. Every unread email, every family conflict, and every hour of missed recovery adds a charge to your system that it cannot discharge. This is your nervous system being stuck in a state of high alert. When you are in this state, your body prioritizes immediate survival over long-term repair. This is why your longevity protocols aren't working. If you're doing a high-intensity interval session while your nervous system is already redlined from a high-stakes board meeting, that workout isn't health. It's just more stress. To a body that is already drowning, even a glass of healthy water feels like more weight. We've been sold a lie that longevity is about adding more supplements, more biohacks, more data. But for the high-functioning adult, longevity is actually about subtraction. It's about removing the internal friction that prevents your system from doing what it already knows how to do: heal. We often think that because we aren't doing anything, we are resting. But there's a profound difference between stopping and recovering. If you're sitting on the couch but your mind is racing through tomorrow's schedule, you aren't resting. You're just working without a keyboard. This is where the permission framework comes in. It's a way to filter your health decisions through the lens of your actual capacity, not an idealized version of who you think you should be. The first step is what we call the bio-audit of subtraction. Most of us approach health like a shopping list. We see a new study on cold plunges or a new fast, and we add it to the pile. The bio-audit asks the opposite. What can I stop doing that is currently costing me more energy than it provides? For many people in the 35 to 55 bracket, the first thing to subtract is the optimal performance identity. The pressure to be an elite athlete, a perfect parent, and a top-tier executive all at once is a physiological toxin. When you give yourself permission to do a 20-minute walk instead of a 60-minute gym session because your sleep was poor, you aren't being lazy. You are being mathematically precise with your recovery. You are choosing the path that actually leads to longevity rather than the one that looks good on a fitness tracker. The second part of this framework is identifying high quality versus passive numbing. We often confuse the two. High quality recovery is an activity that actually lowers your heart rate and shifts you into the parasympathetic rest and digest state. This might be a hot bath, a focused breathing exercise, or a slow walk in nature without a podcast. Passive numbing, on the other hand, is what we do when we are too exhausted to actually rest. It's the late night scrolling, the glass of wine that turns into 3, the mindless TV. It feels like rest because we aren't working, but it actually prevents the nervous system from resetting. We've established that your lack of results isn't a discipline problem, it's a system overload problem. Your nervous system is the bottleneck. In the second half of this video, we're going to complete this framework by looking at how to build internal safety and how to handle the guilt of the responsible one. We'll also walk through a real-world scenario of how a high-stakes professional shifted from optimization to regulation and actually started seeing the results they'd been chasing for years. Up until now, we looked at why your body stops responding to healthy habits when your nervous system is stuck in a state of chronic alert. We established that for the 35 to 55-year-old high achiever, the problem isn't a lack of willpower, but an allostatic load that has become too heavy to carry. Now we're going to look at the remaining pillars of the permission framework and how to actually apply this to a life that doesn't allow you to just quit your job and move to a Greek island. The third pillar of the framework is micro-rest interventions. One of the biggest mistakes high-functioning adults make is thinking that rest has to be a project. We think we need a 2-week vacation or a weekend at a spa to reset. But the nervous system doesn't work on a calendar, it works in moments. A micro-rest intervention is a 60 to 90-second window where you intentionally signal safety to your brain. It's doing 3 rounds of box breathing between meetings. It's standing outside for 2 minutes without your phone after you drop the kids at school. It's the physiological sigh, a double inhale followed by a long exhale while you're stuck in traffic. These moments are like hitting the refresh button on a browser that has 50 tabs open. It doesn't close the tabs, but it prevents the system from crashing. If you don't feel allowed to take a nap or a day off, you must learn to take these microseconds. They are the hidden currency of longevity. The fourth and perhaps most difficult pillar is defining internal safety. Most of us feel like we have to earn the right to rest. We tell ourselves, I'll relax once the house is clean, the inbox is empty, and the kids are asleep. But in your 40s, that list is never finished. If you wait for the world to give you permission to rest, you will be waiting until you are in a hospital bed. Internal safety is the realization that your value is not tied to your productivity. It sounds like a cliche, but physiologically, it is a requirement for health. When you feel guilty for resting, your body releases cortisol. That means even while you are lying down, your body is bathed in stress hormones. You are effectively resting under fire. To fix this, you have to reframe rest not as a reward for hard work, but as a biological responsibility to the people who depend on you. You aren't resting for yourself. You're resting so you don't become a liability to your family later. Let's look at how this looks in practice. Meet Mark. Mark is 48, a senior director at a tech firm with 2 teenage kids and a father with early-stage dementia. Mark was doing everything right. He did fasted cardio at 5:30 a.m., took cold showers, and followed a strict keto diet, but Mark was miserable. He was snapping at his kids, his sleep was fragmented, and his blood pressure was creeping up despite his perfect lifestyle. Mark felt like he was failing at longevity. The shift happened when Mark stopped trying to optimize and started trying to regulate. Instead of the grueling 5:30 a.m. workout on days he slept less than 6 hours, he gave himself permission to sleep until 6:30 and do a light 15-minute mobility routine. Instead of the cold plunge, which was just another shock to his already fried system, he took a warm Epsom salt bath in the evening. Instead of the perfect diet that caused him social stress at family dinners, he adopted an 80% good enough rule that allowed him to actually enjoy a meal with his wife. Within 3 months, Mark's blood pressure dropped. His resting heart rate decreased by 8 beats per minute. He had more energy for his father's doctor appointments, not because he was tougher, but because he had more in the tank. He stopped treating his body like a machine to be fixed and started treating it like a system to be tended. This is the quiet longevity approach. It isn't about the blue zone fantasy of living in a village where time doesn't exist. We live in the real world. We have mortgages and deadlines, but we can adopt the principles of those zones: slower transitions, meaningful connection, and a lack of hurry sickness. If you find yourself in that 35 to 55 window, feeling like you're doing everything right but getting nowhere, I want you to try a different experiment this week. Don't add a new supplement. Don't download a new fitness app. Instead, look for one place where you can lower the pressure. Find one healthy thing that feels like a chore and give yourself permission to stop doing it for 7 days. Notice if the world ends. Notice if you actually feel more energetic because you've stopped leaking power into a protocol that wasn't serving you. You are not broken. You are not losing your discipline. You are simply a high-performance system that has been running on emergency mode for too long. The way back to your resilient self isn't through more grit. It's through the quiet courage of doing less, but doing it with full presence. Longevity isn't a marathon you win by sprinting. It's a garden you keep by knowing when to water and when to simply let the sun do its work. If this resonated with you, it's likely because you've spent a long time being the person everyone else leans on, which is exactly why the next video on the hidden cost of being the reliable one is so important for your long-term health.